Welcome to No Time Like Joe Time, where we watch our favorite TV clips and we get a look up to those who's meant the most to us. This episode, we get to check out the great show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it's a very special episode to me, not just because I really like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but because of my guest today. My guest is one of the biggest influences of my life, a huge reason I've turned out the way I am. He is always a mentor, always a friend. The greatest guy I know, my friend, Matt Eenigenburg. Hey, thanks for being here, Matt.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. And hey, I saw you had two podcasts. That's great. That's a great job.
Thank you, sir. It's been going pretty good. I also got a job as a peer support specialist where I support those in recovery.
Oh, sure. That sounds like it'd be a great fit for you.
Gosh, thanks. Hey, I also won the Super Bowl on Old Madden with the Vikings. That's pretty cool.
Uh, yeah. That's great. Great job, Joe.
I also drank 2 shakes in under a minute at McDonald's the other day.
Great,
Yeah, you must be really proud of me, huh?
Joe. I sure am. Are we going to start soon or?
Uh, yeah, totally. I also touched a fish for the first time last summer.
Awesome.
20 minutes later.
Okay, now I'm gonna jump from my coffee table and to the couch. Watch. Yeah, I'm good. Now I'm gonna show you how long I can jump on one foot. This is pretty good. You ready? All right. This is one.
Hey, are you okay? Joe? Joe, are you there?
I'm here.
Great.
I'm bleeding in 3 different places. You must be really proud of me. Come on, man. I've been trying to walk more.
Are you?
Yeah, we got a treadmill.
How's that working?
Does its job.
Are you trim and fit and ready to take on the world now?
If we're an opposite day, yeah, all those are totally true.
Yeah. I have to make sure that I stretch more now than I ever did
Yeah.
when I was in college or even after.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I can't do the things I want to do.
Yeah, I hear you. I should have stretched before I did that.
There
It's
you go.
getting...
Great introduction, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Been working on that one
for a long time. I remember the day I remembered to spell your name because it's Eenigenburg.
Yeah. No, nobody chooses that name. You are given it. It's your pride and joy. My kids will go to their games and they're going to say their names and they just start walking as soon as there's a pause.
Yeah.
So it'll be like Brandon. Then they start walking.
I was going to say that too. That's my favorite part of the name is always seeing people be like, and I'm like, just go for it. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
They start walking when there's a pause. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate you being here. I don't know if it's as special for everybody else as it is for me, but you have been in my life for quite a long time. I think I probably met you when I was like in 4th grade.
Oh, that could have been.
Yeah. Can I tell you, I remember the first time I don't know if it's the first time I met you. I feel like it was probably one of the first times, but you came over to our house. And it must have been sixth grade because Jaron was in high school. And so a lot of times I'd like to go in my room and just kind of, just think about creative things, just kind of imagine. And when I was doing that, I just so happened to pull my shirt over my knees. It was kind of like rocking back and forth. And then you and Jer came by and you were like, "Oh, hey, Joe." And I was like, "Well, this is awkward."
Well, Jer and Derek they've got to be in eighth grade when I first met you.
Yeah.
So because you're a couple of years behind.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah. It was
uh,
seventh or eighth grade.
Yeah, for those who are listening, Jer is my older brother by 3 years. And Derek, hopefully pretty soon, will be a guest on this podcast as well. Yeah, that was fun and a long time ago. Yeah, you were my youth director pretty much through my whole career in youth ministries, and then we teamed up. It's the dynamic duel. Him and it's the Robin to your Batman in youth leadership, which was really fun. And those were some definitely very good years in my life.
You know how that all worked? Because nobody else knows how this all worked, but this is how it would work. And I'll just talk with the people and let them know. What would happen is Joe is one of the youth leaders, and he would walk into the room and everybody's attention would be zeroed in on Joe. And for the next half hour or more. And what was great about it is that then I found out where I was helpful. Because all the guys for sure are talking with Joe, and then there'd be a number of people off to the side. Well, that's where I need to be. The people that are not in the middle of it or don't feel comfortable being in the middle of it yet. So it was always helpful for me that you went in the room and disrupted the room so that it was all going where you wanted it to go, and then I worked off of that.
Yeah.
So I at least that was my philosophy on it. Yeah. We both did what we both do well.
Yeah. Yep. And you took out a lot of trash. You were great at that. Really appreciate that. Maintenance. No, I'm kidding. I feel like you did more than just that. But I will say,
did.
I do say one thing I learned about middle schoolers and high schoolers is if I looked ridiculous, they would feel less self-conscious about them worrying they would look ridiculous.
Yep.
And nothing illustrated that before. There was a summer vacation Bible study, and there was somebody who had to be dressed up like a kind of like a pet who would do singing and with like the worship team, and each grade each day would come up, and it was the middle school time to do it. So they went up and they were like, "Oh, this is uncomfortable." And so I started to do the most ridiculous dances. Let my energy go to like 300% and got everybody laughing, relaxed. And it was like, I looked like an idiot, but then they weren't worried to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So that's the secret.
It's all ministry.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, something that definitely stays with me. So you've been in Michigan for, I think we said 12 years.
Yeah.
We've occasionally got to lunch together when you visited. But I still talk about you quite often. And actually, I was talking to my therapist today, and I was like,
wait a minute. I come up.
I talked to Matt a lot. So I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, so then Matt hit me with the towel.
Oh, man.
3 times.
Nowadays, I'm sure I would get fired for something like that.
Legendary. I'm going to let you at home wonder what that's all about. I'm not going to tell you.
Man.
I will only say, I think I remember the song, Matt, the shirt whipper. He's a tough kipper. If you make him mad, he'll whip you really.
Whoop you. Yeah, we should probably we'll just stop that one. This would be a great place to edit.
Editing Joe. I'm going to have Editing Joe jump in and be like, nope, sorry.
Nope, we're keeping that one.
Editing Joe here. I was just in the bathroom. I didn't know what was going on. Was I supposed to play a sound effect? Okay, here you go. Woo! I will say, I know you felt bad about it. It was one of the top 10 moments of my life. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But no, I was talking to my therapist today and I'm like, yeah, I feel like things are going really well. And we were talking about different things going on. I'm like, this is going really well. And I'm like, and I'm really excited because tonight I get to do a podcast with Matt. And she right away, she's like, yeah, you've talked a lot about him. And I'm like, yeah, I have, haven't I? And I think it's funny the power that a mentor can have. And it can come in so many different forms because I've somebody who really was drawn to mentors, and you were a great one for me personally. I had a couple of great work mentors who really developed me professionally and so forth. Can I ask, was there anybody in your life who you considered a really great mentor?
I think if you're honest with yourselves, you choose mentors as you go through life.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not actively say, hey, would you be my mentor? It rarely happens that way, but most people will notice people and say, hey, I like the way they do some things. Let me see if I can do something like they do it. And then the more you see them do it, then you say, well, maybe they did it a little differently the next time. I had, I think my first ideas of mentorship came when it was after church on Sunday mornings. Because everybody, you went to church, but then you went over to grandma's house for the cookies and the coffee or juice or whatever. And all the guys went out to the own room. And my dad's family there were 7 children. So I got 6 uncles beyond my dad. Well, one of my uncles lived in Wisconsin, so he was rarely there. But there was at least 6 uncles there in the back room. They're all smoking, and I'm sure I got lung cancer from it, but it was a great time. And there was, if you know N-again-burgs, they're a little brash once in a while, very confident in how they see the world. And it was always my Uncle Lou, who was the in-law, who was the in-law who comes in. He is older than a couple of the other boys. And he would just say stuff like, are you insane? Why would you do these things, right? And he was the voice of reason in those things. And I always admired that he was level-headed. He would try to, all right, let's figure out this. Why are you doing this? Why are you going to do this and get yourself in trouble as well? He was so good at that. But that would be the first one that I would look at and say, boy, I'd love to be like that someday.
Yeah.
But there were all of them. You learn little things from them.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I liked about our relationship is we kind of covered this a little bit with the shirt whipping, but we always had this additional level of humor and kind of I don't think I rip on anyone as much as I do you.
Oh my goodness.
I think you're the only one I feel comfortable ripping with. And there's one word we always do with each other that's always gold. You know what it is.
I'm not going to do it. I can't start it either.
Yeah, you can, you jerk.
No, I can't. No, because we did that. It was on somebody's Facebook page. And I go, way to go, jerk. And the lady was gonna report me to the police or something. It was just
so bad.
She was so appalled that I would do that.
That's right.
I don't even know who it was anymore, but I can't do this in public anymore.
Yeah. Look, everybody, if Matt ever calls me a jerk on Facebook, it's in good fun. but
Um,
still come to my honor.
oh my goodness. And because we were just, it was akin to saying, boy, that was dumb, or boy, that wasn't funny,
Yeah.
or you said that comment. Ah, you jerk. So it's just like, yeah. I don't know if that's healthy. Maybe you should talk with the therapist about that one.
Oh no. This is good. This keeps good. And it's funny, like you said, you don't know. I don't know what moment I was like, Matt's my mentor. And sometimes it just comes out when you least expect it. It kind of reminds me of this episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where Jake, for the first time, you kind of see a sense that he's looking up to Captain Holt. What's your experience, by the way, with Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Have you watched it?
A couple of the episodes I have. I know that my kids would watch it. Some of the older ones would watch it, and so you sit in there and you watch it with them. And then some parts you go, guys, is this really funny? Or and then sometimes it was, and you don't want to think like you're laughing at some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So
yep, hit and miss for people. My wife and I watched it. We liked it. It's funny. This was during the era of people who I didn't think I liked from Saturday Night Live. I ended up really liking, and Andy Samberg was one of them. Bill Hader was another one. The guy who plays Ted Lasso was another one. So yeah, I started to love Ted Lasso. But yeah, we got a clip here of this happen, so we'll watch it and then we'll kind of see what we take away from it.
Your alibi is a mysterious stranger handed you the gun, made you put your prints on it, robbed the store, and then hid the gun in your underpants.
Well, yeah, if you say it like that, it don't sound believable.
Oh, hey, Captain. Did you get my report on the Finley murder?
Yeah, I looked it over. Nice work.
Good. Thanks, Dad. Why is everyone staring at me?
You just called Captain Holt Dad. You said thanks, Dad.
What? No, I didn't. I said thanks, man.
Do you see me as a father figure, Peralta?
No. If anything, I see you as a bother figure because you're always bothering me.
Hey, show your father some respect.
I didn't call him Dad.
No. Jacob. I take it as a compliment.
It's not a big deal. I called Vivian Mom once, and she's my fiance.
Guys, jump on that. Boyle has psychosexual issues.
Old news. But you calling Holt Daddy.
Hey, Daddy is not on the table here.
But you did call him Dad, dude.
You shut up. You've done nothing but lie since you got here.
All right, I was lying about the holdup. But the dad thing, that happened.
Aha! He admitted that his alibi was a lie. It was a trap. All part of my crazy, devious plan.
I believe you.
Thank you.
Son, you want to talk about it later over a game of catch?
I'd like that.
I could see you doing something like this. Like, ooh, this is not going where I wanted to. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Yes, it all worked out. Yeah, it's a great, it all wraps up together in the end. And I see a little bit of our humor there where you see Holt, I believe you, son. Just kind of egg him on. And
have you ever done that before? Like call someone like Dad or
I haven't. I've never done that. Have you?
I think I have. It just rings a bell, but I know that I have.
Yeah, I worked with a boss who she instinctively, like, because she'd talk with loved ones a lot, just say, hey, I love you. That at work, she'd be like, all right, we'll see you later. Love you.
Yes, that's what I did.
Yeah.
So it was just like, and I didn't know if it's like, I say that to Carla, my wife, or whether I thought that, hey, this person is someone I would say that to, like my parents.
Yeah.
So I didn't know.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, luckily I haven't done that a lot. And
a lot.
Yeah, just only like 12 times. And I kind of like this. There's this little bit of a transition where Jake accidentally says Dad, everybody stops. Like already there, I think there's a sense of like that's something he needs, that support. And as time goes on, the last line is, "Would you like to talk about it over a game of catch?" Jake's, "That'd be nice." And I think I can relate to that because I still feel that way with you. Like if you're like, "Hey, you want to talk online?" I'm like, yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be good.
I was thinking, people that are mentors are so much more and there's so much less than other people think they are. Now there's so much more in the way that they show a side of them, but the person doesn't see their down days.
Yeah.
They don't see a lot of the things they struggle with unless they show them. And they're held so high sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's so much less as well. Like they're not the superhero that the other person thinks they are sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of parts to someone being a mentor that are never known.
Yeah.
And it's easy to put them on a pedestal, but it's easier to not see the whole picture of who they are.
Yeah, this is a demonstration why I started this podcast, because it reminds me of an episode of Scrubs where JD has the first time where he sees Dr. Cox be scared in a situation where Dr. Cox's friend is diagnosed with leukemia, and he ends up kind of bailing. And JD's like, it's tough when you realize your mentor's not bulletproof.
Yeah.
But then Dr. Cox kind of becomes vulnerable and comes back. And he's like, it's funny, when you're at your most vulnerable, sometimes you can be at your most heroic. And
it's a good line.
It reminds me too of, I watched this clip, a really powerful clip of a dad who was speaking out about teen suicide because his son committed suicide. And he was talking about how he had like a dozen failed companies. He went bankrupt 3 times, but his family never knew any of that because he was trying to protect them from the bad. But he's like, I think if I would have shared that, my son would not have seen me as this unstoppable force. And so he was encouraging dads, share your struggle, share your difficulties. And I think that, that's something Holt kind of does. And we'll look at a clip later on about how he does that. But yeah, and I think a lot of times too, I think, I can't say this all the time, but I think, at least for me, the mentors I seem to choose were people who could give me something I felt like I was lacking. And for you, it was just somebody to believe in and walk me through the daily lives. I remember like a couple things that always stand out to me. I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, these were moments you were turning into my mentor. One of them is you taught me how to pump gas.
Did I do that?
You did. And, and I think what, I say this on my other podcasts all the time. I never mean to diss anybody or anything like that. But the week before, somebody in my family was trying to show me how to pump gas, and they were like, just go out and figure it out. And, I think that's how they were brought up. And so like, they're like, oh, I learned by this. So, and it didn't go well. And so then the next week having that experience was like, oh, yeah, I get this now. You just showed me. And then the other thing I always talk about is, and this was a life-changing moment. I've told you this before, but was when I think pretty soon after I got my driver's license. And I was meeting you at church, and your car was the only car there. And I thought it would be I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if I slammed into his car? Whenever I tell that story, everybody's like, oh no. And I'm like, I didn't slam into his car. I just had that thought. But so then I pulled in and I went inside. And I was like, Matt, what would you do if I slammed into your car? And you go, it's just a car. And that I remember being dumbfounded by that, because it was like the first time I felt like you were saying you're more important than the car. And so it's little things like Holt in that clip didn't think he was doing anything special by just being like, hey, good job. But Jake needed that.
Yeah. No, I think in our modern world right now, it's so we need people to push us or help us become more than we are as we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, you need mentors that are superheroes, that you can see them and say, boy, I could do that as well. I could aspire to be more than I am right now.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they can't show their weaknesses or their vulnerabilities, but only by showing them can you show somebody, yes, you can also overcome these things to be more than you are right now.
Yeah.
So it's got to be with that in mind.
Mm.
If you're going to just blurt out all your weaknesses to people, well, how does that help anybody?
Yeah.
Then they look at you like, well, you are such a loser. Why should I follow anything you say?
Right.
But if you're showing them to say, yep, this is the real me.
Yeah.
I am trying every day to try to overcome that.
Yeah.
And that's who I am.
Yeah, the right amount of the right authenticness. I was listening to this podcast that you kind of made me think of, where they were talking about how to have the right authentic. And there was this guy who had to go speak at this banquet, and he was pretty nervous because he has a speech impediment.
Ooh.
And so he was really nervous to go speak and talk about it. And so he gets there, it's in the evening, and there's a bunch of like sales reps and guys who are pretty rowdy. And the person who's about to introduce him on stage goes, hey, just to let you know, everybody's been drinking for like an hour. And last year they started to throw bread at the speaker and boo them. And so the guy's like, I'm already nervous, and I just got told that. So he goes out on stage and he's like, hey, everybody, just want you to know I'm a little nervous, and I've already talked to the first row. If things go wrong, they're going to come be my human shields. And got a laugh out of everybody. And then the talk went great. And it was because he was vulnerable, but in a way that made him human, not just like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do good at this. So I think that's, right amount of authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. So we were kind of talking about like, sometimes impact isn't always in this huge, like grand way. Sometimes it can be in small ways. There's another clip I have here that's with Holt again, and one of his officers Diaz is going through a difficult time. And this is just kind of, they're competing for a day off. And this is just kind of how he works with her.
Rosa, stop. I give up. I want you to know, I'm sorry for prying. Win this thing and enjoy your day off. And if you ever want a friend to sit with you and silently listen to death metal, just know, I'm always here.
Okay. I'd like that.
No! What are you freaks doing?
We're leaving the competition. Some things are more important than a game.
No, they're not! Wait, where are you going? Don't leave! We need you to...
You like it?
Not at all.
You can leave.
Not a chance.
That's like me listening to rap music. I'll stay. I'll finish only because you are listening to it. I'm not listening to this just for me.
Have your kids ever gone through a music phase you were like, ugh?
All the time. I had to do my job as a dad to show them good music. And then wherever they go with it, it's up to them. But I got the best years out here in Muskegon were when I would drive them to school.
Mm-hmm.
And the driver's in charge of the radio.
Mm-hmm.
So some days we would have Mozart, and some days we would have 80s rock. And
Nice.
I don't think I ever had rap days or country. I didn't want
Yeah.
them to start off on the wrong foot. But it was a great time of saying, all right, I got to get you well-rounded because that's what I value.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, yeah, I love that scene because it's like they're not talking. They know what each other want, and just being there for somebody in that way. Of like, there's people who I work with at my job. Sometimes the best way I can support them is just taking a step back. And they just know I'm there. And I talk to people about that. So I'm an employee specialist, and I work with people like to help them obtain jobs and keep jobs. And there's a few people who I'll just go there and I'll sit at their job. And some people have been like, well, why do you, that's it? That's all you do. And I'm like, I'm a security blanket. They know I'm there. That's what they need. They don't need me coaching them, teaching them. They just need me there. And
you know somebody's in their corner.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I see. And it also really reminds me, you read the like Piggy and Gerald books, right?
Oh yeah.
The one about do you want to try slop? Piggy's trying to get Gerald to try his slop, and Gerald finally gets guilted into trying, and he takes one small piece, tries it, and it doesn't go well. There's like 2 pages of him just turning different colors and just my kids love it because I make all the sound effects. And afterwards, Piggy goes, Gerald, did you like my slop? And Gerald goes, no, I did not. But I'm glad I tried it because I like you.
I like you.
And I think that, I feel like sometimes that's the quickest way to bond with somebody, is just this understanding what they like.
Yeah.
And for me, I've learned as I've gotten older, I don't have a genre of music I like. Like I'll hear music, I'm like, that song's good. That song's good. That song's good. And they're from 70s, 80s, 90s, today, country, rap. It doesn't matter. But what I love most is when I see a song through somebody's eyes, why they like it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it was my younger brother who was he hit the rebellious stage at the hardest of all of us. But he was listening to groups like death metal in the 90s. It was like Suicidal Tendencies and groups like that, and Megadeth and that. So he made a tape of, back then, sorry, for the kids watching, there's no more tape anymore, but he made like a cassette tape, and played it for one of his teachers. And to her credit, she listened to it and she goes, huh, that's not so bad. It was the best thing of his whole year. I think it was his junior year.
Yeah.
The only thing that went right for him was that somebody said, oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
And I think she listened to 3 different songs.
Oh man.
She was like the best teacher ever for him. And like, I don't think she even knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
Beyond just being, hey, I'll listen to this kid. He's got something for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I feel like, when we talk about these stories where mentors showed up, it's rarely like, I knew they were my mentor when they said, I'll donate my kidney to you. Like,
the kidney.
There's not those stories. For me, it was showing how to pump gas, saying it's just a car, saying that's not so bad. And like, I love that. That's Holt picks up on that.
Yeah.
That this is important to her. And I love the honesty at the end. Do you like it? No, you can go. Not a chance.
Not a chance.
It just, the commitment to somebody is so cool. And I just,
Don't you wish you had more people that they were that committed.
Yeah,
That-
absolutely.
It's like that scene at the end of Narnia, the first Narnia, where, all right, it's like, all right, this is it, and he goes to the death, or I'm with you to the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to be that committed and loyal to you.
Yes.
And that just is like right here.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You feel, yeah, it's makes you feel like you can do anything. It really does. It's, for me, I got through life by believing in people who believed in me.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to believe in myself, but I believed in Matt. I believed in Nathaniel. I believed in Nettie, and they believed in me.
Yeah.
So in a roundabout way, that was my way of believing in me.
Yeah. And until you can do it on your own.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
There's this, I tell premarital couples this all the time, that a guy can do anything if he has a woman who believes in him.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. Believe that your man is the man, that you married him for a reason because you thought he was capable, that you thought he is a good man, that he can do whatever you believe in him, whether he's a plumber or an executive or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And that guy will break down walls for that woman.
Yeah.
Because that woman believes in him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people understand that. Such a powerful thing like that. The flip side of that, a woman just needs to know that she is precious, that this person, this guy chose her on purpose, and does his best to treat her as that. And she will always be that for him. What woman would not say, this isn't ideal for me.
Right.
I am with you to the end.
Yeah.
For a guy who thinks that of her.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. We all need people like that.
Yeah, I like that point, because it's easy just to be like, it doesn't just have to be a mentor role. It can be in every relationship. It can be in, a spouse relationship. Just that little, like, I know for me, you kind of brought that up. For me, I think some of the ways it's not obviously not mentoring, but to show affection, I'll walk by Rachel and I'll just put my hand on her shoulder, put my hand on her back.
Okay,
Yep.
shoulder. Just checking.
It's PG-13s.
I don't know who listens to your podcast, so
right now, my mom and grandma.
Good.
Thank you too. Although my grandma doesn't know how to work the podcast, so I turn it on for her, and she usually calls me like 10 minutes in. How do you turn it off? I'm like, you gotta listen all the way through. The only way.
The best. I gotta.
Yeah, so I think it's just a cool concept that we can find that building meaningful relationships and everyday life.
Yeah.
And everyday relationships. And I also always there's two lines I like. One, there's good people out there. If you can't find one, be one.
Be one.
I think also just being open to learning from others. I think that's one thing that set me up to success, is I wanted to soak in what people were saying. Wanted to hear. I knew that you guys you had wisdom. And I could have, been like, well, what do you know? I'm the new generation. Let me tell you what I know. And maybe I probably have done that a few times, I'm sure. My youth, but
I don't remember, jerk.
I really want to edit in here for complaints about the way Matt's talking to Joe. Please email.
You scroll it on the bottom. Here's his email address. Send him 8 mail.
But there's so many times I remember just hanging on to your every word.
I don't even do that.
Yeah. And there's one time I remember, so I hope it's okay to share the story. And if it's not, I can edit it out.
We'll let you know.
You told me about a time where you were asked to leave a church as their youth pastor because you took the kids bowling on Good Friday, I believe.
It was a laser tag.
And, I remember when I first heard that, I'm like, that's ridiculous. Man, that's what's wrong today with today's church, blah, blah, blah. And I remember you were talking about it with somebody else, and they were kind of had the same mind. And you blew me away when you're like, yeah, but I could have handled it differently too.
Done it differently.
I could have done it the week before. And it was just this monumental, like, you didn't get stuck on the pettiness. You thought about ways that things could have done better. And that was something that just stuck with me. And I was like, I want to be like that. That's what I want to be like.
Well, I had to look at the whole picture because I was a pretty immature youth worker at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That it was all about, hey, I had no idea what I was doing anyways. I just thought, hey, these kids ought to hear about Jesus. Let's do things together.
Yeah.
And they want to do stuff, good. And we would just do things, and there wasn't any communication with the church council.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that could have gone better.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was just, I didn't look for their approval.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look to communicate with them. So a lot of it was my immaturity as well.
Yeah.
So, it changed over the years. So the philosophy, hopefully we continue to grow in life. When I got to faith, it was, even at the start, was kind of, that immaturity was still there. But I got help from other people to grow through that.
Yeah.
And develop the idea of, yep, it's okay to be goofy. It's okay to have some fun. But it was the idea of students need to be sociologically comfortable before they become theologically aware.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that they feel comfortable being there, that they're not in an antagonistic world where it's so boring that it's not relevant to them, before they can hear God's whisper in their ear to say, I love you. I've got more than you even know in store for you. Will you follow me? So how is that going to happen without having them feel comfortable and telling them, hey, I believe in you, even when you don't, because I want you to know Jesus. I want you to grow up and be successful in this life. I want you to thrive. It helps to continue on through that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what definitely strengthened my faith of being a place where it's safe and good to be a part of. And, where it came into practice for me in my life is I was talking to my father-in-law, and he was telling me about this big dispute that was going on at his church. And they're in a small church in Iowa. And the dispute was over if they should get a dishwasher. A lot of the senior women were really upset about it and did not want it. And I instinctively went to, this is ridiculous. This is dumb. Why? Of course, only church people would find something dumb to argue over. And as I sat and kind of thought about it and learning from you, have an open mind, I asked myself, what if doing the dishes is the only way those ladies can contribute to the church? Getting a dishwasher would take that away from them. That would make sense.
In some ways, yeah. In the industrial dishwasher is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
So there's, those people in Iowa, you're a small church, you're kind of pinching those pennies.
Yeah, that too. They're probably like, no, we don't care about that. We also paint the house, the church. We do their roofing.
Do you remember all the things that we used to do? And they were just, I would just think, what do I have to do this week? hey, who can I get to go with me and do it? Like, I've got to go to Home Depot for something. Hey, I'll call up Nate or Casey, see if they want to go, or hey, maybe Joe and Jared want to go, or and you're going, do homework or go to the store. Homework, what's that?
Yeah.
But it was all just doing things together, and sitting in front of a sink full of dishes and just talking and being real with one another and having conversation is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And if I can think like those ladies, they're thinking, all right, we don't need to spend over $1,000 for this dishwasher, and we're not going to have those opportunities anymore. Less of them. You're still going to cook in there,
right?
You got to load the dishwasher, but it changes things a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I can relate to that. So yeah, no, I do remember that. I do remember often you'd be like, hey, should we go somewhere? And I was in the middle of a project, and my mom's like, well, maybe you should finish this first. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I guess you don't want me to love Jesus. That's yeah, it's fine. I can stay. And she was like, okay, no, go.
I'm just glad that you graduated and you could read your diploma. That's what I'm glad for. I'm the cause of you stumbling through freshman year English. What's that word? Why did you ever choose me to be a mentor then? I'm keeping you from learning other things.
Hey, you always have the line, you're getting ripped off on your education.
Yes, all the time. What are they teaching you nowadays? I still tell my kids that. They get a day off of school. It's like, what? You're not getting smarter today. You're just going to sit around and watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. A couple of the lines I picked up from you that I use all the time. One of them is that you're getting ripped off in your education. Someday you'll find a girl that makes your heart go pitter patter.
Oh man.
I use that on my boys.
Groovy. I've been told by my kids I can never use that one ever again. I think that's a direct quote.
Groovy. And if you're listening to this, please bring back groovy. Just start saying groovy. It'll feel weird at first, but it'll start feeling natural. You just be like, okay, groovy. Just replace cool. Please do it. And I'm trying to think if there's any other things I've picked up.
I forget them. I'll remember them in an hour or two when we're done.
Yeah.
Well, the reason we use phrases is that it's a short little thing that cements in a bigger idea. One that I use is it's not where you start. It's where you end. So you were a middle schooler and you were a total dweeb. Do they use words like that anymore?
I'm pretty sure they do.
You were socially incompetent.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling you this, Joe, but I'm just middle schoolers. You're just not there yet.
Yeah.
It's not where you start. It's like, all right, are you going to grow through this by senior year? Can you interact with people? Can you logically think through a social situation? Can you hold your own in any different situation?
Yeah. I was totally socially incompetent in middle school.
I didn't want to say that directly.
And also, I'm going to edit it so you say you were socially incompetent, jerk.
Did you? I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I tell my kids that we had the ISP at church. It was the intense socialization program. It was mandatory for all middle school boys because they had no clue how to interact. Who was it? Was it Brian and Seth and Josh?
Yep.
They were just like tight knit. They were just so together.
Yeah.
And anybody else who comes in the room, they would like look at them and like giggle or something. We just needed to help them along, and they're doing great. Every time I talk with Seth, I'm so glad for him.
Yeah.
He got to be an engineer.
Yes.
And he got to work with planes and all that stuff. And he's a great guy. It was a socially awkward couple years.
Mhm.
You just have to help them through that the best you can.
Yeah.
I think Josh did the same. He was working at a company. It was like loss prevention or something like that.
Wow.
It was like great stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm not saying this to be like underlining. I sincerely mean this. Brian has the funniest Facebook posts out of all of my friends. If
I have not lost track of Brian.
Oh man, he is comedy gold. If I'm on Facebook and something's making me laugh, I'm like 90% chance this is Brian. I tried to do like you won the internet award like once a week, and 90% of the time it goes to Brian. So just his sense of humor. Yeah, that was a cool program. Anything else you want to cover before we start wrapping up?
I have to tell you that for years, you wrecked reading to my kids for us. It, for all that are interested in this story, Joe comes over one day and it's bedtime for my kids to go. It's time. It's got to be 8 o'clock. So Joe is over there with the youth group kids, and Joe's reading to, I think it was Annika, the oldest one, reading this book. It was like 100 Hats or something like that. And Joe's just going through this book, and my daughter's like following every page. And it's, wow, it's so fun. And then my wife gets to read it the next day because Annika brings it to her, says, "Hey, Mom, would you read this book?" She starts reading it, and she goes, no, that's not how it goes. And she goes, "Those are the words." No, that's not how Joe said it. You made up the whole book. You just looked at the pictures.
Yeah.
And said, "Oh, that's the way it'll go. I'll just make up a story." So it rocked reading.
I still do that with my kids. I will just make the whole story up. And one of my favorites, this wasn't making the whole story up, but I'll kind of goof around with some animals. But there's one book that they have a lot of ducks, and there's like a Downey duck or something. And I'm always like, and then there's the Robert Downey Jr. duck.
Oh, that's
also known as Iron Duck.
The Iron Duck. Yes.
So that's fun. That's one thing I'm proud of, my improv skills, where I can go through a whole book, make up the story. And also my kids get spoiled because they always do this then what with me. And I'll make up something dumb. I'll be like, yeah, the other day I was walking to work and I saw a little cat run at me and I got scared and I booted him like a soccer ball. And they'll be like, well, then what? Well, turns out it was a soccer ball that looked like a cat. So it ended up being okay. Well, then what happened? Well, some of the neighbors didn't realize it was a soccer ball. So they got pretty upset with me and they started to run out with shovels. Then what? Well, I started to run away, but lucky for me, I ran into a giant hole and said, "Hey, why don't you guys help me dig this hole?" And then and just keep going. Ridiculous.
How long do they go?
They go, well, let me ask somebody. Come here. Because you just got home from a play practice.
Play practice?
Come here. Okay. This is Matt. He is somebody very special to me. If you're shy, you don't have to say hi. If you want, you can say hi.
Hi.
We do a lot of then what happens anyway. Like I'll tell a story to you and you ask me what happens next. And I just keep making up stuff. Do you know I'm making up stuff when I do that? Yeah. All right. Well, it's really late, so I should say good night to you.
Good night to you, sir.
Good night, baby.
Good night.
Love you.
Good night.
I like you just the way you are.
No, all of my kids I loved reading to them.
Yeah.
And I think it gave them a love for hearing stories, and it helped them learn so much quicker.
Yeah.
Because they learned words so much quicker and how to put sentences together. And
yeah. Because they wanted to fact check me. They were like, we got to read so we know if Joe's lying again.
I still read with second graders at the school nearby.
Oh, nice.
just because I think it's so important.
Yeah.
They have so much fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I ask each guest who comes on the show 3 questions.
Oh,
They vary a little bit depending on the clips. These clips weren't
I was
particularly
not prepared for this.
That's the best part, spontaneous.
I'm so good at that.
Which clip did you enjoy the most?
I think I liked the first one only because it brought out another character that is you.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about Scrubs, and I know that you always said, well, that's kind of me, that guy. And then the one day that you said, well, you're kind of like Dr. whoever, and I'm saying, there's no way I'm like this dude.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
I think I like the first one.
Yeah.
With the idea of, it was just you.
Yeah.
Because you would have done that.
Yeah, totally. That would have been, I agree. I will say I did like the second one. It won me over at the end where it was just, do you like it? No. You can leave. No chance. Just puts it back on.
Yeah.
Second question is, which clip did you feel like we got more out of, that we were able to have more deeper conversation through?
Well, that's definitely the second one, but we were warmed up by then.
Yeah.
So we had already started talking about stuff.
Yeah, I agree. They kind of blended together, but yeah, overall, probably the second one.
If we had the second one first, I don't know if that would have worked as well.
Yeah.
Because it was much more serious.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to start off with a very serious one.
Yeah. And then final question is, if we had to do a deep dive, if we had to choose one of these clips to go over and just really dissect everything we're seeing in there, which clip would you choose?
I think the second clip had more things in it.
Yeah.
Because it had 2 parts. It had the racing, and then they both give up, and then they go to the bar and they're listening to music. So it had 2 parts to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. That I think there's so much you could get out of that with like the competition and putting that away and just so much more.
In the first one, it was much more shallow.
Yes. Yeah.
It was shallow in the way of, you did that social faux pas of calling someone your dad.
Yeah.
And you got some mileage out of that, talking about mentors, but the other ones, they had a little bit more.
Yeah, agreed. So a couple things with this then. So, if people hear this podcast and they're like, that Matt guy seems pretty cool, is there a place they can reach you and say, hey, listen to this? Or
of the 2 people that are watching your podcast, which one is gonna say that?
My grandma. Okay. It's hands down my grandma. Is there, are you okay if somebody reaches out? Or the other thing we always tell people is you can always leave a comment in the YouTube section.
Those are always fine.
Yeah.
However I can help you, Joe, in this, I'm just glad to be a part.
Yes. And the off chance that if you're listening to this and you're in the Muskegon, am I saying that right?
Muskegon, Michigan.
Yeah, if you're in Muskegon, Michigan, Matt is the pastor of a church. What church is it?
Celebration Community Church.
Yeah, check that out. I haven't been there, but I know it's a great church because Matt's the pastor of it. He's been there for 12 years. So if you're looking for a place there, go check that out.
We underestimated the draw of the beach. The scene in the back of me here, this is the sunsets. This is
wow.
This is a normal sunset in the summer.
Wow.
So, and then you get down to the beach and you got the waves crashing. It's not like ocean waves, but it's still the same sound.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's what is it? It's about 1.5 mile walk to get to the beach from my house.
Yeah.
And we just take the dog. It's get 1.5 miles. We watch the sunset.
Wow.
And then we get a 1.5 miles back, gets my steps in. It's perfect.
That's awesome. So if you're looking for a place to relocate,
There we go.
and find a new church, there you go. You're welcome. You're getting so much out of this podcast.
Perfect.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It was an absolute privilege and honor to have you on. I was so excited. So thank you.
It is an honor for me. So,
well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.